collect any questions while I get set up here, and we can then continue with a few of those before we head upstairs. We are going to have a chance to go upstairs and actually do some tagging of the work that you may have seen up in the lobby. The pieces that are...
Not on the wall.
Yeah, thank you. Yes.
In the main lobby.
Follow instructions in this, please.
Because if I still can see my name, we got beef.
So if anybody has any questions, just put them on those index cards and we'll get them up here and have time for a few of those questions. And then certainly after we go upstairs, Samuel will be there to entertain questions on a one-on-one basis as well. But we want to make sure that anyone who would like to have a bit of a question in front of folks, we can do that. So we got another few back here. Is there something special about your work that people would recognize it's your work?
For the most part, if you look at my tag, which is a few of the works up there, and I'll do some on the wall, just the way I end my letter E, because my tag is Brame, B-R-A-M-E, the way I finish it, you can also trace that to my paintings, which my wife pointed out to me one time. She's like, you finished? Ah. So there are things that are unique. And also, I always put a halo over the letter A.
What was the significance of color, and were any proprietary?
Color as far as?
The significance of color?
In graffiti? I think it's for impact and emphasis on the artwork itself.
Okay. And I'm guessing here, were any proprietary, was that be maybe, we saw some images of Sarge and Beetle Bailey and some other characters. You've shown me some things of various iconic characters that sometimes get out there. How do those...
Something in the inspiration, which up to date, you see a lot of graffiti artists, when they do murals, they will reappropriate, like, there was one card done that was Mickey Mouse and Fantasia, it was really beautiful, but it's one of those things where if you do a painting and you don't get paid for it and you're giving it to the city for free, you're not making money of it, you're actually putting off your time. So and then it's kids back then. So I think those are things that influence some of the pop culture also was influenced. Von Baudet, I don't know who's heard of him, seen his artwork. You a tagger, I seen your tag. His work was really like a lot of writers did it, and to this day, Vaughn's son, Mark, is so connected to the graffiti world because in a sense, graffiti artists gave Vaughn exposure. If you put a painting on a subway car, that was going to be seen by over 3 million people a day. That was mass communication. Talking about Facebook friends, no. And my painting is in front of the whole city. So that was another thing. It was, if you look at trailers nowadays, they have all this advertising on the side. Where do you think that came from? From seeing full subway cars. Now it's being appropriated to advertising. So it's kind of like it's going back. Now it's a circle.
We have a question here from a Spanish teacher. Any idea for sharing this art history with youth in school, considering the tie to Chicano or Latino roots and communities?
Definitely. Actually, tomorrow I'm going to my niece's art class to speak about this and do, she called me like before I got here, can you come to my class? So yes, I'm open to sharing with young people about the art and history. And also do some demonstrations and workshops.
Question here, who was the most up when you were writing in New York?
Oh, there's a few guys that I admire. Scheme, you heard of Scheme? We can talk for hours, I know. I love your shirt, that's cool. But there was Scheme, but also Band 2, and there were a few crews that I admire, like OTB, which is Out to Bomb, which is another thing. If you use that word nowadays, I'm going out to bomb, which bombing means going out and tagging a lot. if you use it now, you can get in trouble, especially if you're riding a subway car and you're saying, let's go out to bomb. So those are things, but Out to Bomb, OTV was a big crew. TC5, the Cool Five, which 2 of the members were here last weekend at Subsurface, which is really cool. So those were and then there was like RTW and a whole bunch of crews, but mainly from the Bronx and Manhattan with a few from Brooklyn.
It's a good question here. How do you price your art?
How do I price it? I look at the similar artists and what they're doing, and also based on experience, because this is one belief of mine. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. So they buy your motivation, your story. Why are you doing this? When they see that passion, that's what they connect. So that's how I base it.
Mm-hmm. What does Brame mean?
Brame?
Brame mean.
I later found out it's a last name, but when I picked it, I like the way the letters sounded together. And there's kind of like a rule in graffiti that you don't want to have more than 5 letters because you want to write them fast. So I can write Brame in 2 seconds and every letter falls into the other and I can go, and that's it. I wrote it. And also later on I was like, I'm aiming at something. Yeah, there's meaning in it. So I see it now as aiming at developing and keep developing.
Did artists or writers ever tag another artist's name in order to fool the police to go after that artist?
Not really, because, I mean, unless you practice a lot, and will you want to put that much time to try to get? But there was 3 cousins that wrote. There were a few Joes, like Joe 182, Joe 156, and there were 3 cousins who wrote one of those Joes. And they got up so much, it's like they're everywhere. There were 3 people writing the same name. So I mean, in the case of, not for one to get in trouble, but there were some of that happening. Like later on you saw with like Jean-Michel Basquiat and the Samo, it was him and Al Diaz. So you can see that there were 2 people putting up the Samo thing, and not just Jean-Michel Basquiat. He got the fame and recognition, but there were 2 people doing it.
So you said that you had a little run-in with the police. Did they trace you down? They track you down from your work, or how did that happen?
No. This was another incident. The first one, the one I talked to was in junior high school. The other one was in high school. Got busted riding. Actually, my friend got busted, but since I was there, they took us to the office. I got suspended. So I spent an entire week riding the subways, painting the subways. And on one of those excursions up to the Bronx, we're almost at the last, and this is called motion tagging, which as the train is running, you're inside the train, just going from car to car, tagging it up until you get to the last stop, get off, and then ride the one back and do the same thing. So as we were approaching the last stop, I look over and I'm like, those 2 guys don't look from here. Hold on. And then they walk into the car and they took their undercover badge. So they checked my buddy. He's got the spray paint. They checked me. I only have a mask. And he just put it in my pocket. And he said, take the next train home. And I was let go. My buddy ended up 3 days in jail. And he stopped riding after that. So I guess he learned his lesson. But it was scary. It was scary because I know my parents. I would have probably heard more from my parents than from the system itself.
Discuss the use of stencils and how that differs from tagging.
I think personally, to me, I never used stencils. At that time I found them kind of like the easy way out. Like you do something once. Like nowadays, I do my tag, and I'm like, I don't want that to be digitized and put on shirts. And that's why you don't see it, because I think there's something interesting about the handwritten. Even though you've seen the same tag, it has different, it's not the same. You know, whether it's the different use of marker or the inflection of how you write it, or if you're feeling goofy that day, you just write it loose. If you're feeling a little tense, you might write it a little more tense. So, stencils, in the context of graffiti writing, I never used them and can care less for them. No stencil.
It's a timely one.
Yep.
What we see today, we're told, are from gangs. Is this true, or still harmless tagging from individuals? In other words, is this about turf?
Sometimes it is. I mean, I can recognize it, especially if you saw like the development of the tag itself, like the ones from Phase 2 and Bomb 5, and even on the video. Gang tags don't look like that because they don't want to take the time to develop them because they're busy committing crimes. And so you can tell apart. If anything, they look like the first tags of the 70s, the single hits, because that's when you're in your elementary form. So some of it is, and some of it is not. I can tell, but I'm sure that most of the public cannot tell because they're not looking for the development of it. They're not looking for the style and flow. I look at graffiti every single day, sometimes for hours. I'm like, I never seen that train. Half my computer's just graffiti photos. So I mean, I'm aware of those things.
What inspired you to draw graffiti?
Draw graffiti. I was sitting in a subway station, 9 years old. My dad by my side, looking at subway cars going by, and I was like, wow. Just the sheer color and the motion of it. So I think once I started meeting writers in school, they kind of say, yeah, here, take a marker, take it to the wall, or do something. So it was just that. It was that initial rush and high of it. Now I'm looking at it more from the development part of it and looking at it deeper than just writing and looking at the whole culture. This is only a snippet, but I want to keep you guys here for an entire week.
Well, and we're going to wrap up, so I want to just re-invite you to join us upstairs for after party, and if you want to try your hand at tagging, we've got one more question here that we're saving for the last. Make sure our DJ is on up and making sure we've got some music to play us out tonight.
Sounds good.
But where do you find your inspiration in Indy, or do you draw on prior energy felt in New York City?
It's prior energy, because when I came here in '91, I mean, writing was so in me, and I came here and I was like, oh, it's not here. I think it was some of those conditions, but also the friendships and the friends that are in it. So nowadays when I paint at home or just write graffiti, I have old school hip hop. I mean, just like way back, Grandmaster Flash, even incredible bongo band. If you've heard the Apache song that I was playing earlier, I mean, and I just put on my headphones or put the radio, and sometimes I'll just put videos of subway cars just moving in the background. Where I live, there's a elevated freight line going through, so I can hear them sometimes. I'm like, ah. So I think it's getting in the element, getting in that space to be able to express.
That's great. Well, thank you again. Really
Thank you for your time.
Grab some refreshments and come join us upstairs.